Welcome to the tutorial for applying for reasonable accommodations with the Trinity College Dublin Disability Service. The application process can be broken down into 11 easy steps, which take place on the My TCD student portal. My TCD is where you will also register for your chosen course and can view your student timetable. Your application for reasonable accommodations, once complete, is valid for the duration of your studies, so you won't need to reapply in the next academic year. Reasonable accommodations, also known as supports, can take many different forms, such as access to assistive technology, exam accommodations, and additional library privileges. Step 1. Log on to my.tcd.ie using your Trinity username and password. Step 2. Click on the My Disability Service tab, located on the top navigation bar, and select Reasonable Accommodation Application. Step 3. You will be presented with a welcome page explaining the Disability Service privacy policy, the requirements for evidence of disability, and a note on GDPR. Read this information and click Proceed to continue with your application. Step 4. You will now be asked to indicate your primary disability, which relates to your application for reasonable accommodations. Select your primary and, if applicable, secondary disability from the drop-down menu. You will also be asked to enter a brief note describing your disability support requirements. Step 5. Read and agree to the Trinity Reasonable Accommodation Policy. The policy is an important document which you should take the time to read in full. The policy serves three functions. Firstly, to define the types of reasonable accommodations students can avail of. Accommodations can be standard and non-standard. Secondly, the policy explains how reasonable accommodations are provided and communicated. Thirdly, the policy demonstrates Trinity's compliance with national legislation and policies. Step 6. You will be asked to read and agree to the Trinity Consent to Disclose Disability Information Form. Read this document carefully, as it explains how the Disability Service manages personal information to ensure compliance with GDPR. Data protection law requires the Disability Service to obtain consent before receiving your personal data. Consent must be informed and for a specific purpose. By giving consent, Trinity can ensure that any reasonable accommodations required are identified and provided. If medical evidence regarding a disability is provided to the Disability Service, this information will not be disclosed to any third party, except where necessary to provide the reasonable accommodations identified as part of the needs assessment process. Examples of whom it may be necessary to disclose to includes lecturers and academic staff, residential accommodation services, and health services. If a student is granted exam accommodations, such as additional time, the college will, in consultation with the student, disclose relevant information to the examinations office so that the appropriate arrangements can be made. Should a lecturer or tutor contact the Disability Service regarding a student, they will be made aware that the student's consent is required before any personal information can be provided. It should be noted that it is a student's right to decline to provide consent for the Disability Service to process personal data. However, in this scenario, Trinity will be unable to arrange any reasonable accommodations that require disclosure of disability. Step 7. Read the information about the available support routes and click Next. Step 8. Choose Yes or No to indicate whether you will require exam accommodations. When completing this step, please note the information regarding exam accommodations deadlines. Step 9. Select your evidence of disability to upload. Read the information about evidence of disability and select the type of evidence of disability to be uploaded from the drop-down menu. Step 10. Upload evidence of disability by clicking on the Browse button and selecting the relevant file from your computer. You may upload more than one file by selecting Upload another document and repeating this process. Step 11. Finish your application for reasonable accommodations by clicking Submit Application. You will receive an in-tray message confirming that you have completed all of the required steps. A member of the Disability Service will then be in contact with you to finalise your application and to discuss reasonable accommodations.